this is Sonya from the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. If you really want to learn how to level up, and you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with our good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Hey, Time to Shine Today podcast Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson. And first, a huge shout out and thank you to my good friend Kirsten Carey for making the introduction to my new sister from another mister here, Sonya Bohmann. She works with the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. And a lot of you out there know my story of my little brother that took his life and the vendetta that I have against suicide. And my guests that come on, I don't require them to, but I strongly recommend that they do donate to the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And what my good friend Sonya is doing is making a difference. I'm going to keep this really short and sweet because we really dig in to the stigma of suicide within a construction workplace, which there's over 5,000 suicides a year in the workplace. This needs to be brought to attention. There's only 1,000 people, not only they've lost their lives, but 1,000 people have lost their lives, but 5,000 people a year take their lives. And it's something that needs to stop. And so without further ado, please tune into this, like it, subscribe. My sponsors like it, and it will really help get this message out to somebody. And if you know anybody that's struggling with mental health, please put them in touch with 988. And while you're listening to this, just think of people that might be in need of the services that my good friend Sonya Bohmann is aligned with. So without further ado, here she comes. Let's level up. Hey, Varsity Squad, this is Scott Ferguson, and I'm joking around with my really good friend Sonya Bohmann on offline because we literally recorded this. We thought we recorded this last week, and I didn't hit record. So we're going to bring you the same exact energy, the same exact growth, function, everything, because what we're going to dig into is something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is suicide, which my little brother Tommy in 2009 took his life. And also my guest here has had a sibling that kind of did the same. They did do the same. But yeah. Sonya is a game changer in one of the toughest industries out there, which is construction. She's the executive director of Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention, leading the charge to create a zero suicide industry. With over a decade of hands-on experience in commercial remodels and facilities maintenance, Sonya knows the grind, the pressure, and the mental challenges this industry faces. Now she's turning that knowledge into action, building resources, sparking awareness, and saving lives. She's not just changing the conversation, she's transforming the culture. Let's welcome to the show my good friend and smiley face and the biggest forgiving heart ever. Because when I was like, when we were to do my after show kind of protocol, and I'm even going to check it again. Yep, it still says recording. I saw your face. You're like, oh, and I was like, oh man. But you've been so forgiving, such a big heart. So thank you so much for coming back, literally like 96 hours later, to do this again with me, because it's such an important,
I'm happy to be here and have this conversation.
That. So we'll dig right into kind of construction. It's known for grit, long hours, pressure. So it's one of the industries that you and I both know is hardest hit by suicide. What do you feel is the first thing that we need to do? It's not just you and I, but to really get it out to the public to start breaking that cycle.
So it's about awareness and stigma reduction. The more that we can start having conversations, normalizing conversations about mental health. Construction spends a heck of a lot of time talking about physical safety. And if we started thinking about psychological safety or mental wellness at the same level, we would be able to move the needle.
That's beautiful. I'd love that you said that the basically human safety, meaning like let's not fall off a ladder or hit yourself in the head with a nail or something like that, but also the psychological safety with that. What are you seeing with that's out there? Because you've been hands-on. You've been in the trenches, if you will. What have you seen, like maybe a personal experience where somebody that you might have known needed help and maybe you did help them or maybe you didn't, but like, how is it maybe swept under the rug or did you bring it to awareness? So I would love to hear a story about how something like that went down in your industry since you've lived in it.
So I'm not on job sites anymore in that I don't work on them as much as I did back in the day. And certainly never to the extent that someone who is in a crane or doing heavy civil work. But I spend a lot of time speaking on job sites and connecting with all levels of the construction industry.
Sure.
And what I think is the most difficult, or why the conversation isn't happening enough, is that people are afraid to have this conversation. They're afraid of being labeled, they're afraid of judgment, they're afraid of not being able to get the help that they need, they're afraid of looking weak or selfish.
Right.
So I've had an opportunity to obviously speak all over the country. But just recently, I was speaking at a very large construction company in the South. And I was fortunate enough for them to have brought an interpreter to, I spoke in English, this person spoke in Spanish.
Love
At
that.
the end of the conversation, we had someone come up to me and start to have a conversation. And I speak very minimal Spanish. And so when he came up to have the conversation, we had someone else join the conversation to interpret for us.
Okay.
And what he said is that I came back from an injury. I went back to work and I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like I felt the same grind or the same desire to do what I had done before. I felt like I was sleeping more. I was disconnected from things. And I recognize now after this conversation that I think I might be depressed. I didn't know the word for that.
Mm.
And based on that, the person who was helping with the interpretation said, I went through the same things and
Right.
I contacted our employee assistance program, and we were able to connect that person to the right resources to get the help that they need. But it's conversations like that. It's being open to sharing shared stories. There's power in those shared
Sure.
stories, especially if they're compassionately shared and shared with appropriate language. It really makes a difference.
Have you noticed like somebody that might come to the upper echelon with the depressed, with the psychological, and them getting pushed back, meaning, just keep going? Are
Sure.
you seeing a little
Yeah.
bit more of acceptance now that you're out doing what you're doing? What do you seeing it's weighing a certain way? Because a lot of times that I've noticed here in Florida, I have no idea how this happens, but a lot of the people that are leading the construction sites are these kids that are graduating from college that are like 23, 24, 25 years old. They have no life experience. They have no idea what it's like to go through that grind. Like, well, how are you
I
playing
do.
into that to give them the empathy to say, listen, man, this is real?
So, what I think is really special about that is that they are more aware of wanting to have this conversation. So, we have three age buckets in construction. You have that the side of construction that's ready to age out of the industry,
Uh-huh.
who's not as comfortable having this conversation because that construction worker was told that the grit and the grind, pull yourself up by your
Yeah,
bootstraps, get it done at all costs is how we deal with everything. You leave
right.
your home at the door, you leave your problems at the door, and you grind it out all
Sure.
day long.
Just be
And then
blessed you have a job kind of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a different culture and a different mentality around construction in that sort of that era of
Okay.
construction. And
Gotcha.
then there's a bit of a gap where for the longest time we told people that if you went into construction, you were less than. You were
Oh
not
my
smart
God.
enough for college. You were never going to make something yourself. So just go do some construction. And so there's this gap
Oh my
of
gosh, that's so
not
true. Like mine
right.
and your generation is you're a construction
Exactly.
worker.
Everybody had
Yeah.
to go to college.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
there's this new set of the workforce that is
Right.
more, they've been taught for a long time that it's okay to talk about your feelings. That and COVID even exactly like highlighted that even more
Right.
that we're going to start talking about mental health. So, what's great about that younger generation that is entering the workforce
Right.
is that they want to have these conversations and they're open to them.
Sure.
It's then the shift that has to happen with everyone else in the workforce to start to say, you know what, it's okay for us to talk about that. But that
Right.
conversation comes from everybody being informed and everybody being willing to share what their story is. And if you're someone that has lived experience, meaning you have suicidal ideation or
Yeah.
a mental health disorder, or if you're someone who's a lost survivor and saying, I've been through this and I don't want someone else to go through it.
Love that. And it's so true because people are aging out. They were like our parents, just like,
Yeah.
dude, we're hard workers, we're boomers, come out of
Hardcore.
World War II, and then us, we're like, dude, you didn't go to college, you suck. And then the younger
That's what we were
generation,
taught.
which there might be a little to my, I think they're coddled a little bit. But at the same time, they do need the psychological help. So when you're going out there and giving these like talks or
Yeah.
speeches, if you will, and I know you hold attention so well because you're a brilliant speaker, but is there at the end, and one of your last things you probably say, anyone have any questions, right? Is there any question that you wish they would ask you, but never do? Like someone, you wish someone would freaking just bring it up. That you wish you could just plant somebody in the crowd and say, raise your hand and bring up this question. You know what I'm saying? Is there anything
Yeah.
that you wish they'd say?
So the question that I wish I was asked that doesn't come up enough is, what do you do if someone doesn't want your help?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. And how
Right?
would
That's
you
the
go
hard
about
one.
answering that?
I think if someone doesn't want your help, you have to continue to plant seeds and they may not be ready. And just like when someone is going through a substance use disorder, is that they've got to be at their place and their time. They have to be willing to accept the help, but you
Yes.
can't give up on that person. And so you
Right.
keep coming back and you keep planting seeds and you keep sharing and you keep supporting, because ultimately there's going to be a moment where there's a little bit of a crack in the facade.
Right.
And then you can say, let's do this together. Let me help
Right.
support you.
And your story is which I should have put this at the front of it. Help heck for me not recording last week, but like your journey into it, right? So you like in squad, you got to hear this like story. Can you tell it again, please? Because this will be the
Yeah,
third time you told
absolutely.
it to me when we first did a discovery, and
Yeah,
then last week. But like how you saw an ad,
yeah,
and then you got
yeah,
had a validation, if you will, from a couple different
sure.
people. Like, can I
Yeah.
hear how you really got into this, and also about your backstory with loss of life as well, please?
Absolutely. I worked in a construction company for over a decade and I loved what I did. I got to do some really great things. I was their executive vice president of culture. And I started out just like everyone else, fairly low level management, worked my way through the company and had a really great experience there and wasn't looking for another job. I happened to be reading a book called The Universe Has Your Back, which
Yep.
really essentially says that if you are open to signs from the universe, it will give you those signs. And then what you choose to do with them is up to you. But the universe wants you to be abundant and have good things and is guiding you. You just have to not block it.
Right.
So I happened to be on LinkedIn one day and I was looking at resumes that I had posted a job description. And so my newsfeed showed a job description for the Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. And a few years prior to that, I had seen someone speak and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is amazing. And his name is Cal Byer and I want to do what he does, but is that really a job? Like, how do you make a living doing that? And so I had it in the back of my mind. I would reference CIASP when speaking in the construction industry about suicide prevention. I had lost my sister to suicide about, at that point, it was probably 15 years before that. And it was something I was volunteering in. And I happened to have just also come back from a trip with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And so all of these things were swirling in my head. I look at this news feed and I said, wow, that job description looks like my dream job. Maybe you can actually get paid for that. And so I texted a friend of mine and I was like, hey, can you come look at this? And so they looked at it and they were like, yeah, that looks like your dream job. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, nothing. I'm busy. Don't have time for this.
Right.
Fast forward, went about my day, did nothing about it, went home, took my son to youth group and was sitting there. And I was like, I'm going to get a jump start on my day tomorrow, like the next day. I'm more resumes, opened
Yeah.
up LinkedIn again, and sitting in my newsfeed still was that job description. And so I turned to the person next to me and who happened to be our priest's wife. And I said, what do you think of this? And she said, that is your dream job. I said,
Yep.
I know. So
Right.
what are you going to do about it? Nothing. So you are being ridiculous. You have 2 hours before we have to take these kids home. Update your resume, send in a cover letter, and just see what happens. What do you have to lose? And so I did. And here we are 2.5 years later.
They said something like you might be the least qualified, but the most, but best for the job or something like
Well,
that,
that's
just
what I
because.
said. I said,
Okay.
listen, and when I sent it off, I was like, I am not a nonprofit person. I have done volunteer work in nonprofit, but I come with construction background. And I can tell you that this is marrying two things that I am immensely passionate about.
Love
So
that. Yeah.
here you go. I may not be your girl, but maybe I am.
How did you get involved in construction from jump though, from in the first place? I know you said you weren't doing the cranes and stuff, but I'm sure
Yeah,
you
no,
did some stuff picking up trash and like maybe hanging some drywall or something like that. But like, how did you, like a
did
beautiful
this
woman
happen?
like yourself, make that happen? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So my first job out of college was in the automotive aftermarket, and
Okay.
I made some really great connections there. And so my next job after that was a jump in that same sort of world. And one of my former bosses was he had just taken over this business and said, you want to come work for me? And I was like, I don't know anything about construction. He's going to manage a business, and there's other people that are going to do the construction part. And that's really how it happened. I
Right.
started doing dabbled in a little bit of finance. I dabbled in
Sure.
a little bit of sales. I dabbled in a lot of bit of management.
Right.
Now, in the course of that, because you're managing people and it is important sometimes to show up on that job site, I have certainly hung things in a retail facility. I have
Oh
held a
yeah, I'm
ladder. I've
sure.
painted things.
Yeah.
By no means is it heavy construction. We call it construction light,
Right.
but that's how it happened.
But still, you're there and you learned how
Mhm.
the process worked
And the
for the
people.
people. And you really got to know the people, especially if you're working on the finance side of things and
Yeah.
whatnot. So when you maybe stop in, see, as a coach, I'm blessed to coach companies
Sure.
where like they'll bring me in and I will kind of level up the C-suite first. And then if they allow me into the workers, then
Yeah.
I'll level them up as well if there's time being. But there's always that person that is, dude, like, why is the boss bringing this person in? You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? It's
Happens all the time. Why is
and
the
I
suicide girl here?
yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
hear.
exactly. And I have my ways then 15 years of coaching to be like, okay, get on this guy's side, easy peasy and whatnot. But like, how about you? Because like, why is a suicide girl here? Like, how do you approach that person if you're forced to? Like, what is your dialogue with them? Because and all those people out there that are listening right now, they need to hear this with regards to how to deal with somebody, especially with suicide. Suicide should be a no-brainer, right?
It
But
should.
you'll still have that. So how do you address
Yeah.
that?
So it should be a no-brainer, but also recognizing that there's a big component of our world that doesn't necessarily believe that mental health exists
Sure.
and believes that suicide is weak or selfish. And there's lots of cultural connotations that go around that. And so you have to deal with that as well. But you look at people in two buckets. You're either going to be attracted to a conversation because you have empathy for it, or you're a numbers person. And so if I can show you the ROI, then I've got it in there. And so
Ooh,
you look at the conversation in
love
both
this.
ways. And
Yes.
so sometimes I have to share statistics and talk about the fact that in construction, there's about 1,000 fatal worker injuries a year, but there's 5,000 deaths by suicide.
Wow.
And so that
Wow.
gets that conversation started.
Yeah.
And then you have to talk about 1 in 5 of us is going to be affected by suicide.
Right.
And so now you start to see them going, huh, okay, so tell me more. So now there's some numbers, there's some
Right.
facts that go with it because you're either a facts or feelings, right?
Right.
And so then I start talking about feelings and you mix the two of them and you talk about overall worker health. And then
Right.
even that person that's a little skeptical at least tunes in a little bit to the conversation. And that's all I need.
And so if a foreman was out there listening to this now, or a project manager, or even a
Mhm.
tradesperson, what's one powerful step that they can take today to make their company a little bit more mental health better, for lack of a better term, like maybe improve the mental health within their company? What can a leader within a construction company start doing right now, today, to level that up?
Check in on your people. It's
Okay.
really that simple. Just
So
ask
if
a
they're
question.
asking me, how do I do that, Sonia? What is there any role playing that you might do with them? What is an opener that they can
This is
use
going
with
to
the people?
sound so simplistic, but you
Sure.
simply say, hey, are you okay? I'm worried about you. I'm
Yes.
concerned, or I'm just checking in. It's been a really busy month, or we're working on some really tight deadlines. Are you okay?
Gotcha.
Now, of course, people are going to be like, yeah, I'm fine. And
But
then you
maybe take
ask
that
again,
pause and ask
right?
again.
Yeah, you gotta ask again. Oh
Right,
man,
right.
listen, I'm really concerned. Like you look
Sure.
like you are dragging today. Do you need some extra coffee? Do you need to talk? Or I heard you saying that things are rough at home. Can I be a lending ear
Oh,
or
people
shoulder?
just loved it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's if you're squad, if you're a manager out there, and I really tell like leadership talks that I give, and I talk to other leaders out there, really get to know each one of your employees. Like I am a big believer in the Ford acronym, FORD, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. If you know about their family, obviously you know what they do for their occupation. Well, know what they like to do for fun and dreams. You can really check up on your people. You can
Right.
open up conversations just by knowing the Ford. Get out there and know the Ford. And if you see something like my good friend Sonya says, just ask, are you okay? Got deadlines. We want to
Mhm.
meet them. I just want to make sure you're okay. And keep pushing, not pressing, but just gently along until maybe you get yeah, they're okay. And not
Or they're
because they're
not.
up or they're not. And if they're not, thank you for saying that. What should be their next step?
It's a great question, and it depends on what you have in place already. So, do you have an employee assistance program? Can you connect to them with someone at that EAP? What does your health insurance offer? Do you have free mental health visits? And if you really come across someone who's in crisis, then you reach out to 988. And the great thing about 988 is that it doesn't have to be just for the person who's in crisis. And it also is for someone, it's not, you don't always have to think about 988 as that I'm in absolute dire straits here, but you're feeling stressed out, you're feeling despondent, you can reach out to 988. You're worried about your substance use, you can reach out to 988.
Right.
Or you are concerned about someone who is maybe using too much, or is you feel like they might be in a mental health crisis, or you're with someone. So
Right.
98 has lots of opportunities for us to connect in with it, or even as something as simple as texting 988 or texting 741 741.
So 741 741 is
The
another text.
crisis text line.
Okay,
Mhm.
crisis text line. And then 988 is what like you even donated to. Thank you very much to come on my
Always.
show. And like
Yeah.
again, I have the people that I do interview squad, they do donate to come on the show for the Suicide Prevention Lab. The shows, thank you out there. The show's gotten big enough to where if people don't donate, they go to the end of the line. So I have just a plethora of people that are coming through. So I'm blessed to the people that are donating to the 988. So what would be like you're a fantastic mother, fantastic wife, a great friend. Shout out again to Kirsten Carey for hooking us up. But what is Sonia's definition of a life well lived?
Making a difference.
Yeah? In
Yeah,
what? In
absolutely.
what?
Obviously, in mental health and mental well-being, my
Love
kids
it.
jokingly say that I put the mom in awkward moments because I'll have this conversation anywhere
I
with
love it.
anyone. I have
I
met
love
people in
that.
the airport. I
Yeah,
talk to my Uber drivers about
that's
it.
beautiful.
I was in the Orlando airport and I was sitting along one of the Orlando's always packed. And so I was sitting along one of the window sections and I struck up a conversation with someone just because I talk to everyone. And he's, oh, you sound like you're from Philadelphia. Shocking. He's, what do you do? And so had this great conversation with them. But last week, I just spoke to a very large company here about mental health and suicide prevention who has offices in 5 states
Watch.
from a conversation in an airport.
Construction based?
They are facilities maintenance based.
Okay, that's my next question. What if there's people out there that are listening, man? Damn, dude, we don't have this in firefighting or they're hearing
You.
it. Is there something or direction that you can put them in other than 988 or someone
Yeah.
there's other 501(c)(3)s or whatnot that are out there that are like you, that you do you stay connected in your, I'm going to date us right now, your Rolodex with putting them in touch?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that it's important to know one, that there are three numbers that you can always contact if you feel like you are in distress in some way.
Yes.
Obviously, 911 if you feel like there's an imminent emergency.
Right.
988 if you feel like there's a mental health crisis happening,
Uh-huh.
and then 211, which can connect you to other services that can support not just your mental health, but your physical health. So always think about the intersection of those three numbers.
Right.
But based on that, there are other organizations that sort of support all of those. And so the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, always great places to start.
Right.
They each do their own thing, but they do them really well. And there are chapters all around the country that support each of those.
I love that. I love that you have those numbers by heart. I know they're short numbers, but that you break them down: 911 for the physical, 988 for the mental, and 211 could be other services such as poison
To your
control
community
or
services.
community
Like,
stuff. Yeah,
mhm,
I love that. I love that
yeah,
how it is. And Miss Sonia, so we did this before, but I flipped this part up on you just a little
no,
bit for our leveling up lightning round. And just give me a really quick answer, 5, 10 seconds max. But you ready to level up?
I'm
Here we
ready.
go. One word that describes the culture shift you are fighting for in construction.
Awareness.
Love it. What's a daily habit that keeps your mental health strong?
Grounding.
Love it. Great. Good stuff. The best piece of advice you've ever received about resilience.
You don't have to carry everything yourself.
Love that. Love that, Sonya. So, what's the most common myth about suicide prevention you want to smash right now?
That you have to be a mental health professional to make a difference.
Yes. Yes. So, if you had a billboard outside every job site in America, what would it say?
Check in on each other.
All right. That or are you okay? So, we know that your nickname's Jembo. So, Jen, if you had a sandwich, you could build a sandwich called the Jembo. And what would be on that sandwich?
Chicken cutlet, broccoli rabe, sharp provolone.
Love it. Chess checkers or Monopoly?
Monopoly.
Go to ice cream flavor.
Anything with nuts.
Most commonly used emoji when you text, if any.
The sideways smiley face that's like laughing.
Okay. And I know how you're going to answer this because we're from the same gen, but the best decade of music, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
80s.
Okay. I love it. Of course, we're like looking at each other. Duh. It's only the best. It was funny. I was hanging out with some younger squad this weekend and they had Pitbull on. And I started listening to the song and it had Aha's Take on Me. Remember the best video that's ever
Yes.
been done?
Everybody samples the 80s.
Yes. Every
Yeah.
hook, it seems like it is in the songs these days, all the way up to 2025. And we just lived in the best decade, legitly the best decade. We didn't have any smartphones. We don't have tech neck. We're like out on our bikes, and that when it got dark, you better be home, right?
That's right.
Kind of thing. So how can we find you, my friend?
PreventConstructionSuicide.com. You can also find us at the CIASP on all of our social channels.
Excellent. And I know that you've got a LinkedIn page. We
LinkedIn
have
as well as CIASP.
it's CISP. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the LinkedIn and the CIASP squad, go up there. They do have a donate now or even a pledge to stand up and go out and visit and support this cause. It is super critical because these people are building buildings that are lasting for decades and they're putting their heart, soul, tears, everything into it. And it's just a way for us to make sure that they're okay. And if Sonya, if you could do me one last favor, and leave me one last knowledge nugget that we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Start the conversation.
Love it. And squad, that's what I want you to do out there. Start that conversation. Really, the job, no matter what workforce you're in, normalize the conversation for psychological safety. Okay, there's always physical safety. Let's normalize it for psychological safety. Don't be afraid to be labeled or judged. Okay.
Let's just make them the same. Let's talk about psychological safety and mental wellness, just like we talk about physical safety.
Just like Jen said right there. Yes, make it the same. Make it universal. My good friend Jen, like she's taking things inch by inch, or good friend Sonya, sorry, inch by inch, it's a cinch, right? Like by the yard, it's hard. She's taking things small steps. She's breaking off chunks, but she never stops. She always moves forward. The universe has your back. Like dig into that book. I've read it. She's read it. The book's made a difference in both of our lives. That she's planting trees she's probably never going to sit in the shade of if she keeps doing what she's doing, right? Remember the toolbox talks. Have those at your site. Have the toolbox talks with your crew. If you are a foreman or a leader and ask somebody that you see something that's just not right, ask them, are you okay? And don't press them like, are you okay? Okay. Are you okay? Like, Sonya said, like, there's deadlines. Just want to make sure we're good. We're on the same page, that we're moving forward and everything's good. Just lean into them with that family, occupation, recreation dream. Know your employees. I'm just asking you to please do that because one, you'll retain them longer, and two, you'll know if something's going sideways with them. She wants you to chase your joy. She's doing things for the intention, not the attention. You don't see her running into sites all dolled up, looking J-Lo and like Lambos and stuff like that on social. She's actually cares. Like the pictures that I see her on social, she's sitting at conference tables with people really game planning, right? She wants you to chase your joy and ask the hard questions when needed. Are you okay? It's the simplest thing you can ask. And Sonya, thank you so much for coming on. You level up your health. You level up your wealth. You're absolutely stunning. You've earned your varsity letter here at Time to Shine today. And what you're doing makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for giving me a second chance and coming back on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, one last shout out to our good friend, Kirsten Carey. Thank you so much, Kirsten. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today, proudly brought to you by Inlet Properties and Investments. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on the Time to Shine Today podcast, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you'd like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also, there you will see our recommended resources. We hope you will help support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have been listening to, it'd be great if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's your time to shine.